Good day, ma'am. My name is Kathy May Pasas Lagapa from BSHM 2A. And for today's video, I will be reporting the chapter 7, which is entitled Organizing the Physical Facilities. So, the physical facilities of an industrial enterprise consist of first, the manufacturing plant. Second, the building and premises. And third is the machine and equipment necessary to make a product or range of products in the quantities desired. So, in the organization of these facilities, the following main steps are required. Letter A, selection of the plant location. Letter B, selection and erection of buildings. Letter C, selection of the equipment. Letter D, plant and machine layout. And lastly, E is installation of the equipment. So let's proceed to the selection of the plant location. So when we say selection of the plant location, this is the decision as to the location of vital effect on the success or failure of the operation of such plant. The decision therefore should be based upon a careful consideration of all the factors pertinent to the particular enterprise. So, the nature of the factors involved in a plant location varies among industries and with changing the technical and economic condition. Some industries in the location of necessary plants are influenced by the markets. Others are located around the sources of the flowers. Still, others seek the source of raw materials. In the selection of plant location of the following considerations should be taken into account. Determining the region, determining the community, and choosing the plant site. So determining the region in which the plant is to be located requires consideration of five prime factors, namely. So first is proximity to market, second is proximity to necessary materials, third is transportation facilities, and lastly is adequate public and private services such as water, power, fuel, gas, and etc. So when we say proximity to market, there has been established a relationship between the centers of population and manufacturing, a relationship indicating that industry in general to seek its make market. The tendency of land to locate near its market has been evident. So first, where the product is perishable, as for example, bakeries. Second is here professional skills in important as photographers, tailors, and other whose style or craftsmanship the customer want to see first before buying. Third is where the processing add wheats, as for example, the preparation of bottled drinks, which involves perhaps 90% of water plus the wheat of in the bottle. So second is proximity to the raw materials. The raw materials a factor is production. This is very vital to consider when processing removes considerable weight. So for example, it is much cheaper to manufacture cement at the place where raw materials are. So thus our cement plants are in Cebu, La Union, Bulacan, and Rizal, very near to the limestone mines where the raw materials come from. And another good example that may be mentioned is the meat packing industry located at Chicago or Kansas City in the United States. So, on the other hand, if the materials is readily mobile or if the cost moving it is small in relation to its value, then the source of materials is only a minor consideration. So proximity to the market may prevail. So, number 3, transportation facilities. So, if the business requires continued transportation, either of raw materials in or of finished products out, or of both, the convenience of transportation facilities has a real bearing on the economical conduct of the business. So, when the material is heavy or bulky, its transportation it's directly tied in with the optimum means of transportation. For instance, water transportation, if available, though slow, is it is the most economical way to ship bulky freight such as oil, iron, or coal. Railway and motor truck are quite faster but higher in the cost. Air transportation is the fastest, but due to the excessive cost, it is limited principally to lightweight items and perishable materials. And number 4, adequate public and private service. So manufacturing thrives in an area where the supply of power and water is plentiful, as illustrated by the following. So first, the manufacture of fertilizer requires the location near an ample supply of power, as in the case of the Marcelo fertilizer plant near the Maria Cristina hydroelectric power plants in Mindanao, or of aluminum as in the case of the Reynolds Aluminum Company located at Epifanio de los Santos Avenue, Quezon City. Second is the huge public water power project of the Tennessee Valley and in several American Western states are indicative of the importance of adequate power of successful industrial economy. So the continuing scarcity of water in the Manila area can be traced to the heavy demands for water of the many industries around it. So third is the need for large amount of water in addition to air conditioning to dissipate large amounts of heat generated by some present-day manufacturing processes. And lastly, fourth, is the locating of the principal plant for processing of the atomic bomb components at Hartford, Washington, due to one of the best sources of pure cold water provided by the Columbia River, in addition to advantages of isolation and abundant volume for process cooling. So, all of these indicate the need for abundant sources of power and water by many kinds industry. So, number 5 is climate. In certain industry, the nature of the climate, temperature, and humidity is a factor that assumes considerable importance. The manufacturer of shoes in Marikina, Rizal, for example, prefers a moist climate because he does not wish the leather that he uses to dry out rapidly. So the manufacturer of airplanes seeks a climate that makes possible the year-round testing of his finished product. So recent developments in air conditioning have tended to lessen the importance of the climate factor. So at one time, Mount Province was considered the most desirable section of the nation in which to locate a textile industry. So now that is possible to control the humidity of the air in a factory by mechanical means. Mount Province does not have the same advantage over certain other section of the country. So let's proceed to determining the community. So once the general area of region has been determined, the selection of a particular community is next. So the best choice of a community for the plant depends upon the consideration of the following factors. So we have a consideration of the following factors. First is labor supply. Second is wage scales. Third is other enterprise in the community. And lastly is taxes and restricting laws. So the labor supply. Labor supply means the number of skilled and unskilled person available for the kind of work to be done. So these factors is often more important than all the factors, especially when skilled labor is required. So the watch industry is concentrated in Switzerland because children often follow to the footsteps of their parents, thus assuring ample sources of skilled labor. So the shoe industry in Marikina, wood carvings and paite, doors or windows in Taytay, and wooden shoes in Bifian can be traced to labor supply. So it is very essential that the required kind of labor should be available as needed and at reasonable rates of wage. Now, there must be ready supply of, especially so that time, business expansion. So second is the wages skills of differentials. So wages scales or differentials also affect community location. However, these are not permanent and should be not considered as defined or specific factors in locating a plant site in any community. So it is a fact that wages constitute a big item in the company's expenses and savings, which could be saved through lower wage and rates are important consideration. Third is other industry in the community. So oftentimes competing or complementary enterprises in the community influence the decision on the selection of a plant site. So, competing industry may drain the supply of certain types of labor skills, with the result that this industry become competitive with each other. So, with such condition existing, the place is therefore not a good site for the business. So, number 4 is industrial attitude of the community. So, the attitude and cooperatives of the community as a whole are of some importance, and anti-industry or anti-company attitude sometimes cannot be overcome by the best public relation man. And fifth is taxes and restricting laws. Provincial and towns legislation are also important. The corporation laws are more stringent in some countries than in others, and some enterprises located in a particular country almost for the reason or almost for that reason done. So let's proceed to the choosing the plant site. So after determining the region and the community in it, the final step is, of course, the selection of the exact plant site in the community with the following factors to consider. So the land. The land is the search for a site. The principal consideration is the land, whether it is ample in size, including room for expansion as well as parking space for employees' cars. Second is transportation. So the other factor second in the important is through the transportation, whether the site is readily accessible to rail, motor, water, or air transportation as may be required. Could the employees, for instance, reach the place even with or without transportation? And third is the surrounding. The third factor has something to do with the surroundings of the site relative to the following question. So, it be a good place for the employees to work, Second is are the building and zoning restriction that would not permit the type of the building planned. And lastly is the community fire protection adequate and available to the site. So let's proceed to the general consideration. So plant location today is generally a matter of cost tempered with circumstances. Theoretically, the most favorable location of a plant is that place where in consideration of business as a whole, the total cost of producing and delivering goods to all the customers is the lowest. So actually, however, the decision as to plant location is not always based on reason. For more times than management is willing to admit, corporate or financial ties of the enterprise or personal whims of some top executive exercise of the balance of power. So, in this regard, circumstances then takes precedence over cost, loyalty to a hometown, or even superstition caused by dream may affect the decision to a build plant. Next is present trend in plant location. So the tendency is to locate plants in the proximity of cities rather than in a rural areas or directly in the suburban areas offer practically all advantages, facilities, and services supplied by the areas and possesses the added advantages of lower assessment values and of sufficient land space to spread out of the plans to allow for expansions and to provide parking areas for the employees' cars. So this explains the tremendous growth of the town surrounding in Manila. So next is selection and erection of buildings. So the choice of the building depends upon its suitability to the nature, purposes, and requirements of the business. Heavy manufacturing, for instance, calls for strong or sprawling buildings, while a retail store needs a situation that will allow adequate display of merchandise. So an office, on the other hand, requires light and air and freedom from necessary noise. So types of building. There are two basic types of buildings, namely the single-story building and second is the multi-story building. So each of offers certain definite advantages, the relative merits of which should be weighted with respect to the requirements of the enterprise involved. So let's proceed to the advantages of single story over the multi-story. So we have seven advantages of single story over the multi-story. So first is greater ease of expansion through extension of two existing buildings is made possible. Second is there is less vibration where sensitive equipment and materials are employed together with heavy machinery. Third is the soil requirements for foundation are less severe. Fourth is there is better natural light and ventilation, which is cheaper and hygienically preferable to air conditioning and artificial lighting. Fifth is there is more usable floor space in a sense because no space is required for elevators and stairways. Six is there is more efficient routing possible and lower materials handling costs. And lastly is better supervision is made possible when the supervisor executive does not have to go up and down several floors. So we have advantages of multi-story over single-story buildings. So gibali-bali ra siya, no? First is more efficient use of land space, particularly where the space is limited or expensive, can be had. And second is lower cost of the construction per square foot of floor space is another advantage. Third is the cheaper is to heat because of less roof and other space through which can which heat can escape. Fourth is upper stories are more free from street noises, odors and dirt. And fifth is use of gravity flow of materials is permitted. Let's proceed to the present trends in building construction. So, allied with the recent trend toward the location of lands in servants area is the trend towards the erection of the single-story building. So, flexibility of lands layouts and lower routine and materials handling costs among all other things. So, comprise strong inducement to management to erect single story structures. So, it does not imply, however, that the multi-story is no longer in demand. So one of the contrary for light manufacturing and where the gravity flow principle can be utilized, it is has a definite place in the list of industrial and structures. So space of columns. So the present thought on the spacing columns is in the direction of wider and higher interiors. So typically and other um sorry. So let's proceed to use of basement. So the basement and sub-basement are being used for more and more for the storage of raw materials, for dead storage, for service tunnels, and for employee servicing facilities. So there are corridors through which employees pass on their way and to from the work areas above. So likewise, located in the corridors are the locker rooms, washrooms, and maybe an air-conditioned air cafeteria. The use of corridors prevent confusion and interference that occur during the change of work shift. Next is wailings. One of the great difficulties with solid concrete walls is in their inflexibility. In the case of unavoidable changes, for instance, great expense will be incurred, such as changes and rather costly. So roofings. The so-taught roofings have deserved more preference or popularity than a flat roofs due to improvement in natural lighting offered by the former and sometimes of the lower initial and subsequent maintenance costs. Flooring. The present-day industrial buildings, especially to those which have a heavy machinery installation requires the solid flooring. So concrete or tiles are most often used. New noise absorbing and less jarring tiles which are highly durable, fairly inexpensive, and easy to maintain are now quite common. Let's proceed to the present trend of insulation. So the building installation and facilities mentioned in here are those to which industry is today devoting major attention. And second is plant illumination. Guardrail illumination in a plant place for itself in greater productivity, efficiency, improve morale of employees, fewer accidents, and better housekeeping. The building installation lighting fixtures should be appropriate to the type of work that they are to eliminate. So a display of merchandise is to make it look attractive. Calls for a special combination of pictures which should not be used anywhere else in the establishment. So fluorescent lighting. So there is a strong trend today in the direction of fluorescent lighting. This is the type of artificial lighting most widely used by industry today. So, and which has replaced the incandescent light to a great extent. The principle of fluorescent lighting is to glow proceed produce by ultraviolet rays in a tube coated inside the fluorescent flower. So, na mga advantage sa mga fluorescent. So, fluorescent lighting offers the following advantages. So, first is practically glireless can be made to stimulate daylight and greatly improves night working conditions. Second is its operation cooler than of the incandescent or mercury lamps, particularly where air conditioning is installed. And third is it is more economics in operation. For example, 100 watts of the fluorescent lighting being approximately equivalent in foot candle illumination to 300 watts of incandescent lighting. And color conditioning to the other phase of good plant illumination, it is the interior painting. The principal objective of industrial color conditioning is to achieve uniform brightness but sufficient contrast so that the job will appear more interesting to the employees' eyes than in the surrounding area. So air conditioning. Air conditioning has found increasing application in industry in recent years with the development of more process requiring constant temperature and dust-free air. So the expensive sources of electric power have also contributed to this trend. So let's proceed to the plant layout. There are factors influencing a plant layout such as first is type of industry, which may be a continuous industry, one in which all of the materials are received at one point from one successive operation, turn these materials into finished product. Letter B is assembly industry, as in the case of car manufacturing. Types of product, which may be either be heavy or light, large or small, liquid or solid. So let's proceed to the types of operation. So which may be wet operation as leather tanning or textile dyeing. Heavy machinery as a large hydraulic presses. Cooperation which involves fireries as powder manufacturing or firecracker making. And types of workers is we have five types organized ideals of our plant layout and particular plants. Now let's proceed to the plant and design. So plant layout and design deals with the physical arrangement of the factories, plant warehouse, of laboratory areas, and commercial establishment. So this arrangement involves equipment, the people and their workplace, the supporting services, utilities, auxiliaries, and communication and equipment. So, and the building itself, a faulty layout may slow up the work and maybe require unnecessary movement of the work. Objective of land's layout. Making a layout plant is not the end result, even of those responsible the planning, rather improve operation, increase output, reduce cost, better service to customer and convenience and satisfaction for company personnel are likely to be the shape of objective. So each planning or rearrangement project will have its own individual objective, and this will be vary with different management viewpoints. So operating policies and the specific considerations surrounding the project. For efficiency in planning layouts and plant design, it is important that the real objectives be clearly stated in early in the planning. So let's proceed to the plant layout fundamentals. So it is probably impossible to achieve all the benefits of a good facility in any one plant. By its very nature, a plant facility involves multitude of factors and consideration: products, materials, sales volume, people, buildings, services, utilities, and the like. All of these must be blended into a facility that will give the greatest benefits that and have the fewest limitation. So a manager um wait, sorry. So a manager should aim certain fundamentals in his facility. These include, so first is integration, second is utilization, third is expansion, fourth is flexibility, fifth is versatility, six is regularity, seven is closeness, eight is orderliness, 9 is convenience, and lastly is satisfaction and safety for all employees. So these are all the fundamentals in his facilities. So layout planning, basically any layout planning involves relationship, closeness, desired between various activities or functional areas. Second is space, in amount, kind, and shape for each activity or functional areas. And third is adjustment of the activity areas into a layout plan. So let's proceed to the types of layout. So there are three so-called classical types of layout: fixed position, process or function, and product or function, and production or production line. So fixed position holds the shape materials in one place and brings men and machines to it. This layout is generally most economical when the product or materials is physically large and heavy. So second is process layout or layout by function. It is generally most economical when the or nature of the operation is relatively complex or costly. The products or materials are diversified or variable, and the quantities as each item are relatively few. So product layout, or line production. It is generally most economical when the quantity is large, the process is fairly simple, and the product or materials is relatively standard, price constant, and not too large. So from the above, we note that the decision as to the type of layout rests chiefly on three elements: PQR, product, quantity, routing. So when we say product or material, quantity or sales volume, routing or process or operation. So these three elements determine the flow of materials a certain P in a certain Q moving through a certain R. So installation of the equipment. Once the layout has been approved and reproduced, copies are usually distributed not only to the K factory men involved but also the plant engineers, plumbers, and electronics men so that the necessary construction work may be completed by the time in actual installation is started. So project studies. In the preparation of the project studies, the one who prepares it should first find out the different factors which can affect of the business, if it's to be proposal for new establishment or it's the expansion purposes. So technical aspects, so like cost of production, are they competitive? Is the manufacturing process suitable to the business operation? And also the rate of utilization of existing facilities. So financial feasibility. So the over financial position of the company, profit incidence, sales level, debt servicing, if its financing is to come borrowed funds, and etc. So, overall project evaluation can be based on the above features. And that's all my report, ma'am. Thank you so much for listening.